Hi, everybody. I'm Matt Anderson, and welcome to The Road Not Taken, how ordinary people got out of their own way and you can too. Today's guest is Rachele Gonzaga, who's a stylist to some of London's most influential women, sharing the power of self-confidence in what you wear. She serves a variety of women, from new mothers and those post-injury to those wanting the right look for their corporate office culture. Rachele took up this vocation after a car accident left her with scars on her legs and on crutches for almost a year. She grew up in Rome, so get ready for her Italian accent, used to work at the United Nations in Switzerland, and she's also passionate about sustainability, since fashion's the world's second most polluting industry after oil, something I had no idea was the case. In this capacity, she's head of sustainability communications at Swarovski, the Austrian crystal company that sold in 2,800 shops in 170 countries, with annual revenues exceeding $3 billion. Rachele, welcome to the show.
Hello, everyone. Welcome.
Great.
Good afternoon, good morning, depending on where you are.
Yeah, thanks so much for joining us. So the question I want to kick off with is, what prompted you to want to get out of your own way when your life was at its lowest point?
Yes, I think I was about to turn 30, actually, and um, on one hand, I thought I realized all my dreams. I thought, okay, I live in London, I have two beautiful children, I'm healthy, I have a beautiful job. And for some reason, I was at my lowest point. And I thought, that means that there is nothing external that could bring me the happiness I thought I would achieve by having these things. So this is where literally one afternoon I realized that all the things that I thought I would have to achieve to make me happy, I had achieved them all, and I was at my lowest point. And I think that was the day that I said, okay, there is something I need to change inside me.
Mm-hmm.
Something I need to work on myself for the first time, and not just wait for these things to happen or work to make them happen. Of course, it was not all luck, these good things that happened, but it still wasn't enough. I was still feeling, it was really a day where I realized, okay, everything happened, but I'm so low. What is happening here?
Mm-hmm. And so, I mean, presumably you could have gone in two different directions. You could have got even worse, but luckily, I guess it sounds like you hit enough of a pain point to decide to do something differently. So can you talk us through the steps, or what went through your brain next once you realized how badly you were feeling it? And also, just to reiterate, really, because it's kind of a shock in a way, what you're saying, that so many good things had happened to you in your life, and yet you didn't feel happy at all. And I've had people on the podcast before say things about money the same way, that all their lives they'd wanted to have lots of money, and then they got there and realized that, oh, I'm not happy. It's something else I need. So talk us through what went through your head that day to turn it around.
So in my case, I was looking for independence, living, with my husband, and living in London was always my dream, having a job that I loved, and having a son and a daughter, and I was blessed to have both, actually. And I think, 4 days after I turned 30, my second child was born, and he was a boy. And I said, okay, I've achieved everything. And a couple of months later, I think it was probably a combination of baby blues as well.
Mm-hmm.
I thought, this is not good. As I said, I was very, very low. And I thought, okay, what is the solution here? What do I have to do? Clearly, it's not moving city, because I've moved cities so many times. Clearly, it's not changing, the environment around me in a way, because I was very happy, as I said, to live in London. Even with the job I had, I was very happy. I was kind of happy with my friends as well, so it was not even that aspect that wasn't working. I even thought for a moment, maybe I need to have another child.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what is missing? Like, literally, I didn't know where to find the solution. So what I did, I remember I called a nanny
Mm-hmm.
and I said, you take my two children today, and I need to go out and think. So she came literally in the afternoon, and I just left the house. I went for a walk, which ended up being a 5 hours walk by myself. I remember the days were getting shorter. So it was probably August or September. And then I thought, okay, I've tried, I've definitely tried everything, and there is nothing more that I can do in terms of action, like concrete actions that I can do to change this situation where I am. So I need, first of all, to find someone that I can talk to about this without feeling guilty and without being afraid of being judged, and someone that will understand, someone that will have the time for me, someone that will have the time to listen. And I felt that if I didn't have that support of someone that would have taken the time, probably I wouldn't be where I am right now. So that one person happened to be my husband. And I know that sounds very obvious, but in a way, even to him, sometimes I didn't explain to him the way I was feeling, because again, I didn't want to hurt him by saying, I'm not happy. Because of course then you think, well, why are you not happy? We have a fantastic life here with me, we're in love, but I took the courage that day to tell him, I'm sorry, but I need your help to find for me the way to get out of my own way. And for me to just start living, because I felt until that moment I didn't live at all. I was just living someone else's life, which happened to be the life I have decided for me since I had a brain to think, which is still the life I would have had probably, but it wasn't really connected to my inner me and to the happiness that I was looking for.
Okay, so now I need to stop you for a second, because you've in a way you've lost me a little bit, because you said I need to start living. So to help connect the dots here, because you had a lot of good things in your life, but what was the piece missing on the inside that you needed to let out?
I think there was a lot of sense of guilt, a lot of all the objectives that I had, they were the objectives that I set up myself for success, including, just having, as I said, having a family, having a job, living independently. Those were the objectives and the goals that I set up for myself when I was around 16, 17. And I thought that by achieving them, having a master, having a good education, all these things, I thought that by achieving them, that would be that would be finding my happiness. I thought that would be it. That is what I'm here to do. And I was just shocked and surprised to realize, as I said, I think after my son was born, to said, I have everything now and I don't feel happy at all. Actually, I feel almost like I've lived towards these objectives, but I've lost me in the process. I've lost when did I dedicate time to me as a person, to me as also like to evaluate the change that I was going through that naturally happens from, you're a girl of 15, 16 until you're a woman of 30, 32. Lots of changes around you happen, and I didn't even take the time to reflect whether the objectives I wanted were still the same, or whether, how did things around me change? How did I lose myself in this process instead of just following these objectives that I had? And funny. Also,
I say no. It's funny because I can't speak for parents everywhere, but I can speak for myself and my wife. Certainly, that I know we both felt that way since we had children, and I definitely know I have, that when you give so much to obviously infants that are so needy, then you end up, it's very easy to not take any time for yourself if you're also trying to hold down a job and do everything else and buy the shopping and all the rest of it. So if you were to have to give, let's say 3 to 5 like specific steps of things that you did to help people who do feel a bit like they've lost themselves, what would some of those suggestions be that you found successful for you?
of course, so first of all, you need to take responsibility, I think, for where you are in your life. So take a moment to be honest with yourself, be true to yourself, sit down, take the time, walk in my case, but just to think like, I'm here right now. Be honest about whether you're happy or not about it.
Mm-hmm.
And as I said, for me, the biggest step was to admit that I wasn't happy, even if I had I just had two beautiful children. That is a massive, massive taboo. Like, even especially in Italy where I come from, to say in that specific moment of your life where everything seems to be good, you're young, and to just say I'm very low, that takes a lot of effort, a lot of courage.
Yeah.
It wasn't easy to do at all, including from people very close to me, that just wouldn't understand that. So I think it just, as I said, take the time, take responsibility for where you are, be honest to yourself, admit what is good, what is not good, admit what the moments and the activities that bring you happiness and the ones that don't. And then sometimes it takes courage to just then fix it. Because in my case, for example, I found that one of the things that was in my own way was a full-time job.
Yeah.
And I was, please, Matt, yes, you want to say something? I can see.
Yeah. Well, I was writing down a question that I want to ask sooner rather than later, but I think you're about to answer it really, which is, because you've said where, you need to, it takes courage to fix it. And then what goes through my head, because I hear people say that, or I more often read it in books, like you need to be more bold and take bigger actions. And when you're not feeling very good, it's incredibly hard to do that. So where or how did you find the courage to fix it? Because I think it's much easier said than done. So I applaud you enormously,
of course,
for having those conversations and clearly taking action. But you found it from somewhere. Where did it come from?
I think sometimes people are afraid that the big moves are actually that big, while in fact, sometimes it's a very small change that can help you massively. So it doesn't have to be like, okay, I'm unhappy, I want to leave everything and go to Thailand. That's a big move.
Yeah.
And that of course is difficult to do. I think sometimes we lose the connection and thinking that what we actually need to do, it's a small thing, and that's exactly the key for starting this turning point. So as I said, for me, like, it's not that I've, all of a sudden, as I said, change city, change family, or change job massively. Not at all. I was thinking the key for me was time, actually, and the fact that specific time in my life, my own happiness and my own path towards happiness wasn't possible with a full-time job. And the courageous decision was to tell my husband, my family, my in-laws, I don't want to have a full-time job at the moment. My boss, I said, sorry, I need time for me. I need time to follow my dreams. And of course, I still kept my responsibilities and, kept a part-time job, which is, very, of course, and it's something that makes me very happy. But it was a very courageous step to do, especially, as I said, in Italy, we are quite conservative. Once you have a full-time job, you keep it as long as you can. It's not a given at all. And for me to say, sorry, I want to do less, it was the most courageous thing to do. And as I said, without the support of even one person, you need to find at least one person that believes in you and that sees the change. Because even my husband, he always understood, but he didn't really see the change until I started acting on this new kind of way of living. And when he saw the difference, he said, oh my God, yes, of course you're going to do that. That's amazing. Finally, you're smiling, you're happy. I can see that you almost found one of the problems that you had and you're dealing with it now. So it's definitely the support of even one person that backs you up in a very courageous decision, and starting from very small steps. Sometimes when we feel all life is wrong, you feel stuck and you feel, where am I going to start from? Like I can't start, sometimes we have financial difficulties as well. It's not easy to just say, I leave my job,
Right.
I go for another life. It's not easy because we kind of feel stuck and are stuck in some situations.
So,
But literally, it could be a new friend, it could be a new activity, it could be a new hobby, it could be a healthier nutrition, it could be a sport, it could be anything, really. It doesn't have to be massive at all. But it's important to take the responsibility and start from that one thing that we think is going to make a difference.
well, thanks for giving some of those examples, because it's wonderful to hear, because clearly there's never a one size fits all with this topic, and that you're right, totally different things can make an impact for different people, including all the things you mentioned. So the new activity one only jumped out to me because I've read that twice in the last week, and I've heard it many times before but sort of ignored it. And what was great about the last time I read it, it was in a book by a neuroscientist to explain the like how it benefits the brain, because it opens it up to new things. And once you start doing things like that, then it opens it up to other new things and behaviors. And so there's definitely brain science behind what you're saying as well. And then the nutrition thing was this morning. So there's a lady I'm interviewing in a couple of weeks who's a CrossFit Masters champion, CrossFit Games Masters champion. So the best in the entire world at her age level. And I signed up for her course. And anyway, day one, she's talking about, paying more attention to what goes into your body, and this app she recommended about chemicals, to sort of, because the thing, even clothes or the detergents and things, but just as well as just actual food ingredients, but just the things that can also impact us that we have no idea about, that we're putting in our bodies. So those are wonderful examples. I just want to come back and have you re-spell out the in terms of where you found the courage. So was it in talking to, so you found the courage by opening up to your husband and identifying, was it through the conversation and through your thinking that it was more time that you needed? Because again, it's the source of the courage that I'm curious about. Or was it, if you even know, or was it that the pain was so bad that you had to take action? I just want to dig a bit deeper there, because I'm curious what it is. It's because it's not easy to do or even to go from, as you said, some cultures, well, most cultures, to reduce the amount of work you're doing can get frowned on at many ages. So where can you say a bit more about where your courage came from, you think?
I think it came from being tired of the pain. It's when you're depressed and when you're anxious as well, which I had this really nice combination in my case, they went hand in hand for a long time. The pain is unbearable, and that's something that no one really talks about. It's painful. It's painful on your heart, it's painful in your stomach, it's painful in your head, and it's painful for the people around you. So I had many days that I was not even going out, just staying in bed for 14 hours, doing thinking, not even sleeping, thinking or sleeping or eating. Just I remember I used to walk in the streets, looking at people having a coffee and thinking, what are they doing? Like, how can they enjoy that? What are they talking about? What do they have to say? What am I doing? I felt so disconnected, and the pain and the feeling lost was so, the feeling of being lost was so deep and so embedded that in my case, I suffered a lot because I was making the people around me suffering as well. And I could see that when, my children were, all of a sudden, my daughter would start me asking, "Mommy, are you tired today?" As it was, like the baseline
Right.
because of course that's the answer I would give. No, babe, I'm tired. I don't want to do that today. And I think the feeling of seeing my family getting used to that, to this me, was something that really, really scared me. And also feeling in general that I could not bring anything to anyone. You know, what am I doing? What is my contribution to the people around me and to the world? And I think that was the source of my courage. Just, but especially the wanting to end the pain. Imagine you're tortured. You would do anything to end that pain, right?
Right.
You would speak up. You would do anything if someone and something is torturing you. But it has to be a long torture. Otherwise, you don't give up immediately, right?
Right. And I want to bring things in some ways in a totally different direction, at least momentarily, because to put perspective for those listening. So Rachele now is, without question, an inspiring role model to many women, has tens of thousands of followers on Instagram. And when you, it's I don't know, it's priceless to me in a way to have a conversation like this, because if you were to just take a quick glance at Rachele's Instagram page, you'd think, oh my gosh, what a lucky woman who gets to wear incredible clothes in incredible places, and oh my gosh, she has, you know, the perfect life, and there's pictures of her children on some of those gorgeous 2 and 4 year old children, and it would be so easy to make a snap judgment. And it's so funny because after I'd, like 5 minutes after I was looking on Rachele's Instagram page today, you know, I sort of had this realization about, I was ashamed of myself actually, because I thought, you know, the old Matt would have just made a snap judgment and said, oh, you know, I don't live in that world of, you know, luxury clothes and fantastic locations. And, you know, she obviously lives on this other planet and she's so lucky. And now I feel so privileged to sort of realize just, you know, we never know what people have been through or why they're doing what they're doing. And that's why I'm so happy to have this, of course, excited to have this conversation, because clearly your painful experiences, and I think this is true for probably every single person I interview, has led you to charge in a really empowered, incredible direction. And I don't want to immediately jump to the end point of what I just described, because I know myself too that it's a daily journey. So talk us through a little bit of the early day journey. You talked about doing some new activities. It would have been quite easy, I assume, so correct me if I'm wrong, it would have been quite easy to lapse back and say, oh, no, I can't succeed at this, you know, and to fall back to 14 hours in bed. So talk us through some of the things that you did that helped you stay on track, and then we'll get to sort of some of the things you're doing now.
Thank you, Matt. And just to touch one moment on the Instagram, actually the whole purpose of that is just to show that it's possible when you have been low and when you have children and when life seems tough. It's still possible to have this kind of life and enjoy moments. You know, so even the view of a mountains is something that I enjoy now, and I wasn't enjoying up to some time ago. So I think, and I hope that my followers understand that it's really about showing that it's possible, but it takes at least some, as I said before, some courage, and, you know, just showing that it's not easy, but it's more for me a source of inspiration to just show that it's not at all the clothes, or it's not even the travel, and of course not the way I dress my children. It's just really showing that your brain, as you said, needs to be also stimulated by so many things in order to keep alive and to be happy. And yeah, so just wanted to mention that about my Instagram, that I hope it's more an inspiration rather than someone that would make someone envy or something like that. No, absolutely. I don't want that at all.
And the comments support that too. I mean, you get the comments clearly of encouraging ones, that people are excited about what you're doing and where you are and things like that. So, but go back to those earlier days. You'd gone down to working part-time. You were taking more time for yourself. What other kinds of things were you doing that helped you, you know, move forward and progress?
Yes. So, as I said, once I took the decision, and that's because I guess it's my German side, you know, once I take a decision, I kind of tend to follow it. So for me, the most difficult part was definitely realizing where I was and just finding a new objective. And again, in my case, that was by far the most difficult part, so really taking the time to understand that and admit it to myself, even if that meant admitting a failure of my past 30 years of my life, it didn't matter. It's fine, as long as I admitted that and I was ready to do a change. So once I understood that, of course, step by steps, as I said, I called my boss at the time and I said I would like to take longer maternity leave because I need to focus on myself and I need to spend some time with the children, understand where I am now, and I will let you know when I come back. And again, I was lucky enough to have a very, very supportive boss, namely Nadia Swarovski herself, that said she was more than happy for me to take more time and just for me to find my way. So again, support from key people around you. If she would have said, or someone else in HR would have said no, it would have been a problem. So step number 1, take more time for me. Step number 2, deciding what is it that I want to do differently and what potentially would have been the solution in my case. So in my particular situation, it was very difficult for me, even when someone says, oh, start a hobby or start an activity. I was not allowed as a child and until I was 18 to do any activity. So I was not allowed to see my friends after school. I didn't do any sports. I didn't do any social activity whatsoever. Friends' birthdays, I never attended. Didn't have friends coming over. Never did a sleepover. Never went out. And of course, wasn't allowed to do any hobby at all. So for me, at almost 30 years old, to say have a hobby, I was so lost. I said, I don't even know what I like to do, and I don't even know if I'm supposed to enjoy it. I felt very guilty about enjoying something because of the way I was brought up. The only thing I was supposed to do was doing homework and work for my family business. And I remember I was hiding from my father just to be able to sleep when I was tired.
Wow.
So I was hiding from him to have my nap on a Saturday afternoon after school because it was not allowed, not even to have a nap, because I was supposed to do something productive. So as I said, either homework to be the best at school or work for and help for the family business. So for me, even to realize that was something not normal and to just think at 30 years old or around that age, have a hobby, do something for you that you enjoy, that was incredibly difficult. And I had no idea where to start from. And of course, you might have people around you that say, go out, enjoy, drink, whatever it is. It's not that easy at all. It's not obvious. It's not, I had no idea where to start from. So literally, I started to try different things. And I started to listen to myself when I was doing these different things about the very, very tiny feeling inside me, whether I was enjoying that or not. And it was so hard to detect, I remember. So just feeling, one day I started to do, I tried a class at the gym of a circuit or something. And I did it and I thought, did I like it? Did I not like it? Was it good? I'm not sure. Okay, let's keep trying. It can't be bad for you, right? Let's keep trying. One day I went out to see some friends for the first time after a very long time. And I had an orange juice, something that was also forbidden because I also never wanted to put on weight. So literally for me, that was, really doing something wild. And I was thinking, did I enjoy that? Was it good? Was it not good? So I started this little process of starting different activities and taking the time to feel and to listen to myself, whether I was enjoying them or not. And slowly by slowly, I connected all the pieces of the things that I like to do and created my own career out of it.
Mm-hmm.
And that meant that I realized I enjoyed helping women to get out of their own way,
Mm-hmm.
helping women to find back confidence in
Mm-hmm.
themselves, especially when, like me, they had an injury, a body-changing injury. They had lots of scars. They just simply had a baby and their body has changed, and no one is taking care of them by the kind of from the kind of stylish point of view,
Mm-hmm.
because you're never told you have pregnancy clothes and non-pregnancy clothes. What about that phase in between? It's not easy. So I started to just connect all the things that I thought I enjoy, and I said, if I put them all together, I enjoy being outside. I don't want to be 10 hours a day at my desk.
Mm-hmm.
So I enjoy helping women, especially. I enjoy talking to them about meaningful conversations. I enjoy fashion. I always did. I'm
Mm-hmm.
Italian. I work for Swarovski. But at the same time, I said, I can't design, I can't model, I can't, what am I going to do? So how am I going to put this all together? And literally then I said, I'm going to be a stylist and I'm going to help women to just feel better about it. And I think, again, it was this process, step by step, of finding the good in all the small things that I decided to try on. Some were really bad, like I realized that the gym wasn't for me. So I remember feeling, what do I have to do this? I have a person shouting at me saying to do it harder, to do it better, and to make me sweat, and I'm suffering. I don't want to do this, sorry. So I'd rather now go for yoga and Pilates and, where I'm at my own pace. But again, it takes courage even to say, sorry, I don't want to do that hardcore stuff at the gym.
Yeah.
And, for all the super fit women at the gym, or my friends that say, oh, just go do your gym. And I said, no, sorry. And again, it takes courage to just stand up on your feet and say, no, that's good for me.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter what's good for you. That's good for me. And that makes me happy. And I think once you find the courage to admit it and to just say, that's my own way of living, you slowly start to get there, to the key of happiness, I would say.
Yeah, no, I love that. I notice you use the word courage a lot, which is, therefore I assume it's on your mind often. What kinds of things do you do to build your courage? And is that what, in fact, did you just answer that question in a way? You build your courage by doing things that you love, by saying no to things you don't love. I mean, has that been that process over the last sort of 6 years or so for you?
Yes, it's still a process. I'm actually now, as we speak, I'm doing a training about the art of saying no.
Okay. Huh.
That's not my strength, and
Yeah.
I need to get better at that. And
Yeah.
I realized again that it was another part of my process towards feeling better. And I'm sure there are still many steps that I have to do, but I definitely identified that I wasn't very good at saying no, and I didn't like the feeling that I was left with when I kept saying yes to things. So it takes courage again to reach out to a person in my business out of nowhere, saying, I like your style at work, in the sense of like your authoritative style, but at the same time, you're still friendly and you're still nice, but you can say no in a way that I would like to do as well.
Yeah.
So literally reached out to her, and she has accepted now to be my mentor, and she's teaching me how to say no.
Oh, funny. Oh, that's great.
And she was surprised because, she's important head of HR, and she just saw me once or twice. And I said, you have to do this for me. I'm sorry, you have to help me. And she said, yes. And again, it takes courage, because who are you, right? But if you don't ask, you don't get.
Right.
So
Oh, I love that. Talk about some of the clients, the women that you've helped, just in terms of sort of things, helping them get out of their own way. What kinds of things have you done to help them?
yes. So even if my job specifically focuses on the style, so it should focus on literally like their appearance and what they would wear, what they could wear. It actually went so much beyond that, because in some situations I realized that they had completely lost interest in life, in activities, they were struggling with their marriage, they were struggling, they had similar struggles to what I have or know. And in some cases, I encourage them to work with a therapist as well. So I was working hand in hand with a therapist on one side and with me from the other side, from the more kind of practical side. Sometimes, I was invited at their home to have a look at their wardrobe and do a wardrobe detox, and we ended up just having a cup of tea the whole afternoon, chatting about what they weren't happy with and how they could change that. And they always kept me asking, how do you do that? You have 2 children, you have 2 jobs, you have lots of friends, your family is away, you often go to see them. Like, how do you manage it all? And it was really about giving advice on simple things about, for example, did you make sure you spent enough time with your husband this week? Did you make sure you feel good about your hair this week? And I know it sounds kind of very superficial, but for a woman to have good hair, it's important. So really almost with a checklist. And sometimes I do that myself as well. Still I do it when I feel, what is wrong? And you have to have this mental checklist where you think, is it the relationship with my parents that is not helping me? Is it the children that are maybe worrying me with certain behaviors? So literally, I think I used my case and my situation, and I had a really kind of unlucky family in terms of original family. Do you say that? When your originary family, your parents?
Birth family, maybe.
The birth family,
Yeah.
yes. So I was really unlucky in that sense. And I think, for them to hear how I did it and, that I wasn't for sure, it didn't fall from the sky at all. I think they developed this trust towards me and they listened very much to this kind of advice, depending on the kind of problems they're facing. And again, it should be just the kind of clothes you wear. It became so much more than that. Really.
Well, it's interesting because what I hear from you are, and this is my language, activities that center us. So all the different things that we really need to keep reasonably well balanced in our lives, or enough so that we feel good about what's going on, whether it's health or different relationships, or physical things as well. There's 2 specific questions I do really want to ask you about because you've mentioned them, and I think they deserve more time. One was, you mentioned that sometimes the women that you talk to, one of the first recommendations you make is therapy. Can you talk a little bit about the benefits of this? And the reason why I think it's so important is because too often I think in books, personal development books, the topic of therapy tends to get ignored completely, frankly. And yet, I know personally that there are benefits to it. There just are for many people, but it still seems to have a bit too much stigma around it. So can you talk about the benefits, why you recommend it, and sort of what benefits you've seen other people get from it?
Yes, of course. So first of all, it helped me. So I recommend that because it helped me in the very first place. Even if I was lucky enough to have people that listened to me and that supported me, it wasn't enough. It was courageous again to admit that I needed professional help and really to create the space for me to get it out, to cry, to be heard, and to feel that someone was trying to deal with it with me. So I recommend that because, again, I think also it might, it's a very hard process, and I don't think that members of the family would be able to do that because it's really heavy and you need a trained person. This is why we have therapists in the world, I was reluctant myself because, again, in Italy it's quite still a taboo to say you go to see a shrink and therefore you're crazy. Also, again, you have everything you wanted in life, why would you see a shrink, and again, to admit that, I said, you don't worry, I want to do this. So I think, so it's really suggesting, I had different kind of therapies and they deal with different kind of problems. So I try to tackle both the trauma due to my car accident and the kind of more the counseling due to my childhood, and some specific exercises due to my anxiety. So really we had this kind of triple faceted approach, whereby I'm still left with concrete tools and exercises that I can still do now if I have my days where I feel anxious, where I feel low, where I feel worried. That's very normal, and everyone should have those. But it's the feeling now that it's not going to stay, hopefully, because you never know, right? And I think from the scientific point of view, they say that people that had depression and suffer from it might very well have it again, and there are some people that are naturally more inclined to have it than other people. And I think also accepting that, and, just I see my brother, my sister, they suffer from chronic headache, one, and another one has more like back pain, and that's their chronic thing. I tend to think about my mood and my anxiety and my stress and my depression as my chronic thing.
Right.
So now that I know that, I need to cherish that a lot, because I know that there are days where I'm really afraid that it can come back.
For sure.
And at the first alarm bells, I immediately stop and go back on track and take the time, cancel the meetings if I have meetings. I take time for myself, go out with a friend of mine, whatever it is, but you need to tackle it immediately. And I'm not ashamed to say that, as I said, I probably will have maybe that again, like hopefully not, but I know that it's something I need to deal with the rest of my life.
Yeah.
And it's my responsibility though, how I tackle it, and if I want to go deep into that hole again or not.
Yeah.
So I think when the women that I help hear that experience and they see the changes that I've gone through, I show them pictures, about how I was in the past. You can see, for example, actually I was doing my photo album the other day about the past 10 years, and there is a massive hole of pictures at some point. And I realized, oh my God, I was not even taking pictures anymore. This is how bad it was. And so I think really talking to them and just explaining that also it's fine. Whatever they feel they need to do, it's fine. And then really keeping the relationship with the women, the clients, it goes so much beyond than just texting them the day after saying, did you talk to your husband? Did you check with your mom? Did you buy that thing that you want to do? Like really trying as much as I can, of course, to just make sure that they start that little change that will bring them then to be able to do that for themselves, which is what I hope they will then.
Wow, you just covered so many different things there that it's quite hard to know where to start in a way. I mean, most of all, I'm just appreciative that you're so open about it, because as you said, I can't remember, I wish I'd written down the exact words you used a few minutes ago, but you kind of said something to the effect of, people just typically don't talk about this. And I think, it's one of the things that I want more people to get exposed to, I suppose, is the hidden topics that are in fact affecting millions of people in every country. And and then, to have people that are willing to have the courage to stand up and say, yep, it happened to me, and here's how I handled it, and just talking about it in real terms, but then also pointing out all the fabulous things that you can go on to do, and not, obviously not wallowing in, oh, poor me kind of thing, but just on the contrary, but just saying, this is one of the things I've experienced, and this is how I'm handling it in a very positive way. So thank you for doing that, because I think many people do need to hear this. And I also particularly personally as well, but appreciate what you comment about your brother and sister, because I have read more and more about how we repress our emotions certainly at times, and it does come out in different ways physically. So as you said, it might be backache, it might be bad headaches, it could be bowel or bladder problems, but I mean so we've all got our thing, and it's expressed in different ways. And so it's almost as if, some people say, well, I'm not, I don't have depression, but then they have some other chronic physical ailments. If somehow it makes any difference, it's still it's still something that needs to be addressed in a more healthy way. And so speaking,
yes, and it's just a difference is then when you say you can't really go to the office and say, I have a headache, and then you have another colleague that says I'm depressed. It's not seen in the same way.
Right.
So
Right.
this is why I think there is again a taboo about it. Actually, my team, who is so supportive, they know that I'm struggling with this. That I was struggling, and that it's something that I always keep working on, because it doesn't finish. It's just something you need, as I said, to nourish completely. When I have my days that are kind of particularly moody, I go to the office and I mention that immediately, as they do some days that they come and they say, I have a hangover, and another one say, I have a flu today.
Yeah.
And sometimes they come to the office and, guys, today is a difficult day for me. So either I'm going to be silent, I'm going to be moody maybe, or I'm just going to not to talk to you. Please accept it, and it will be better tomorrow, maybe next week. I don't know.
Right.
I'm working on it. Just understand it, and that's it's at the beginning they were also a bit surprised, but now they know, and they have accepted me as I have accepted that. One has often conjunctivitis, and the other one has often headaches, as I said. So it's really speak up, and even in the family, as it's not. I was so afraid not to be accepted in the family anymore, when I kept saying, I'm sad, I'm sad, I'm sad. And they were like, oh my God, we can't hear that anymore.
Yeah.
What are you sad about? What are you complaining about? And I said, I'm sad. Like, it was such a big call for help, and people don't know how to help you. That's the thing. People don't know. And it's not like, as I said, that's a headache. You give a medicine and you feel better. It's not like that. But then keep saying it. Go to your GP, go to your doctor, say it, and just, make it a bit extreme if needed, but seek for help.
Right. And then moving towards one of the other bigger areas you work with your clients on, the benefits of looking good on the outside. You talked about hair. Obviously, you're a stylist. So talk about that part in terms of, because again, I'm embarrassed to say this in a way, but I mean, in the past me anyway would certainly think of clothing as a bit more superficial, or like, well, that's not going to make a big difference. It's really what you're doing on the inside that counts, and so on, or the work that you're doing. But talk about that, because I think, again, it's in a way, not stigma isn't the right word, but there are negative connotations sometimes when people just see fashion models, or men in very nice suits and so on. Talk about the power or the importance of that, because I think many people could benefit from getting your perspective on the difference it makes for people.
Yes, of course. So I had this question myself, actually, where I thought at the very beginning I was working so much on the clothes and giving advice on certain clothes. And I had days where I thought, oh my God, it's just clothes, right? Like, we could all dress up in one white, gown, and it wouldn't make any difference. And I felt a bit guilty as well, thinking, oh my God, like, I'm just, how could it be so important? But then I reevaluated that, and I thought, why do you have so many different cultures that give so much importance to what they're wearing as a sign of belonging, as a sign of, it could be a ritual, it could be just feeling part of a specific community. How did our clothes and the way we dress change during the centuries? Isn't that another expression of us as human beings? So it's the same with art. You think art is not needed, right? Like, why do you have to do that statue? And so many people worked on it, and that it costed so much, and then you think it was not needed. But no, it is, because we as human beings, we have the need to express ourselves. We have the need to affirm who we are, and clothes, it's a way to do that. So I think, and I speak especially for women out there, we know the power that we feel when we feel we're dressed well and appropriate. When the day of our wedding, where we felt fabulous, imagine the same day, exactly everything the same, but in shorts and a t-shirt. Would have been the same?
Yeah, no.
Instead of exactly. So imagine like having to ask for a promotion again in ripped jeans, and feeling not very good in yourself that day, and having dirty hair and, just not feeling good. That doesn't work. So I just was fascinated by this power that I can't speak for men because I don't know exactly how do they feel, and this is why I tend not to work with them, because I felt I'm almost like I'm cheating because I don't know what they think about it. But how is it different that day when you wake up and you wear something you love, something makes you feel good, instead of that day that you just put on the same thing, whatever, that you just happen to be in front of you and maybe you feel uncomfortable, it doesn't suit you, but it doesn't matter. I was fascinated by this difference, that I could feel myself. And the more women I was talking to, especially again, once they go through body changes and, you just, the things don't fit anymore in the same way. And it's not necessarily a matter of gaining weight, it's just a matter of changing the way you are and changing your role. I just could see so much, how the difference of these women with the right dress to feel empowered to maybe go out even one evening just because they felt they had a nice dress on, ask for a promotion, didn't ask for a long time, going back to work after maternity leave. Just it makes a massive difference in our confidence. And on top, because of my sustainability background, I felt that it's good that I work for Swarovski and I communicate about how responsible our crystals are. But who is going to talk to the people out there about how polluting the fashion industry is? Who is going to teach them, that if we buy something like a t-shirt that costed £5-10, someone else has paid the price of that. So I felt people don't believe that much in brands, and I felt, okay, I'm going to be also that mediator that explains how to build a sustainable collection on top of everything, and how to feel good about it and how to feel good about themselves.
No, it's interesting. So something I want to come back to that you said, and I'm not going to. Some of this is a direct quote, and some of it isn't. I couldn't get it all down, but you said something like, "When you wear something that makes you feel good," and then you compared that to versus putting whatever you see. You said, "I was fascinated by this," and just that's such a strong word. I want to make sure everybody's clear about what was it that fascinated you, and so you went on to sort of talk about fascination in the sense of sometimes it's just body changes that people experience, and then you help them with the right kind of clothing that makes them feel really good about themselves. Is that the source of the fascination? And then you went on to say the fascination in terms of how much more confidence it can bring people to ask for what they want and the difference it makes. I mean, so is that the fascination and the difference it makes from where the person is wearing whatever compared to wearing clothes that they feel really good about?
Definitely. The fascination is how something we're wearing on the outside can make us change from the inside. The fascinating process was just to see how the difference in our behaviors and attitude towards people around us and in general towards, I'd say, the world changes when we feel good in what we're wearing. And just the smile that sometimes I see when my clients try something on and they think they look good in it, all of a sudden they have a smile and they start to talk, for example, to the person in the shop, something that when they enter the shop they have completely ignored because they don't want to talk to anyone and they feel like they're not even worth, they're not even interesting. All of a sudden it's like they wake up and they think, oh, I'm worth it. I can talk to that person. I'm visible. And that's what I think is very, very fascinating.
And I've got to ask this, I mean, how do you help people sustain that? Because that is that is a significant shift. Are you saying that it's sustained so long as people are wearing clothes they feel good about?
It goes with the internal process that I mentioned before, because of course I don't have new clothes every day, and I don't at all want to encourage people to buy new clothes. Actually, I work much more on a minimalistic wardrobe where you can mix and match things that you love and create new outfits from a very basic wardrobe, and then have some special pieces, of course. You sustain that, I think, by doing the parallel work that I mentioned before, about nurturing yourself in the right way with the right things that you love to do, with the activities you enjoy, with standing up in your feet and just claiming your own rights as a person, being able to say no, try to care less about what the people think about you, which is very difficult to do, but definitely helps when you're able to do that. And then, doing this parallel work on yourself, then the dressing part, it becomes just one aspect that just helps you just feel good, and it's just something that is on top. But the most important process is from the inside, of course.
And that's actually a brilliant summary, really, of what we've talked about. So just as we start to wrap up, when you and I met for coffee last month, you talked about, and I think these were your exact words, something what you called the daily training of the mind. Talk about that a little bit as well, because these are certainly consistent activities, and maybe these are part of that daily piece. Are there other things that you do very consistently to kind of keep your head in the best possible place?
Yes, so definitely I wake up in the morning, and I have to admit I'm not a very energetic person myself. So I tend to feel a bit tired in the morning already when I wake up, and I wish I had more energy. But when I wake up in the morning, the first thing I do is stretch.
Okay.
So I do this 10 minutes. It's not a lot, and I have no idea probably what I'm doing. It doesn't look good at all. It looks weird. But I really make sure I have 10 minutes where I really move my body and just feel almost like I get rid of my strains and my constraints, and it's a way for me to affirm my own space in the world. So it's really movements that then otherwise you end up not doing never, like you just realize, and that's something I learned from yoga, probably the only thing, is that if you don't do certain movements, they never happen by themselves kind of naturally in your daily life. So as I said, also I'm not very much into sport. I'm a bit lazy. So that's the maximum of my exercise, which in my case helped. And again, I was very proud and courageous to admit I don't want to do anything more than that. That's more than enough for me.
Yeah.
So it's this 10 minutes of stretching that I do every day. It's kind of a reminder of the things that, and I know that sounds kind of very obvious and probably everyone does it, but I have a list of things that I'm grateful for the day. And I know that it sounds probably silly, but I think the moment you start to do it, the first 2-3 days are not that interesting, but then the more you do it, the more you realize how many things you have to be grateful for. So I found it very hard to do it at the beginning, and now it's like so many little things that I gave as granted before. So really a checklist of what I feel grateful for, checklist of things that I hope for the day, and it's things that if they happen, I would be very, very happy. If they don't happen, I take it as a challenge for the day after.
Okay.
So it's almost like keeping my goals in mind, and not necessarily about, not with the stress of reaching them, but it's more like to just bring me back on my path and just realize what I'm doing, and especially to avoid that sense of being useless that I had for a long time. So I think, once I found my purpose, it's almost like a daily reminder of my purpose, and just kind of reminding me about the small steps I need to do to get me there, and enjoying the process.
Sorry, you said
rather than
yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you really, but I just wanted to catch something you'd said, because it's the first time you've mentioned it. You said you talked about the checklist of things you hope to do for the day, and then you said it's a reminder of my purpose. Would you be willing to share what that is?
So in my case is making sure that my inner peace and my inner happiness, if you want to call it like that, is an inspiration and helps others around me. And whatever I do is oriented into that direction. So it's very hard to do, because I am a very emotional person, and if I love a lot. If I suffer a lot. And I don't hide it. I'm very open about my feelings and emotions, and it's very hard sometimes to have to step back and, give the others their space as well. When you feel, I want to help you, I want to make your life better, I want to do that. Sometimes you need to give people space as well, and that's hard to do. But all in all, I really try to listen to what others around me might need, and try to help them to feel better about really, really small things that hopefully bring them then the courage, as I said, to make a big change, because I can't be responsible for that, right?
Right.
So it's really about activating that first little light to give them hope. And I think I have the power to give that little light. The rest is on them, of course. But that's my daily purpose, and that applies even to my family, to my children. Give them that little light, or that little they need to feel that they can go in the right direction, whatever it is, that gives them their inner peace.
That's really inspiring. I'm so glad you mentioned that. When did you come up with your purpose? Or when did you get clarity?
I think it was the first time I saw, when I had my first client, actually. So I had my first client, and I could see the change, and I could see that also when my family comes together and I'm not there. Someone at some point mentioned something about of feeling kind of sad and not having that energy that I bring normally. Even if, as I said, I'm not energetic at all, but clearly, since I have this kind of motivation inside me and this purpose around me, people feel it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it was literally in a matter of a month, I had my first client. I think there was a comment made from my very own family about not having me at an event, and they felt that something massive was missing. And I thought, oh wow, is that the contribution that I bring to the people around me then? Which I didn't realize until then. I was always so afraid to just bring bad vibes and bad feelings and actually even at work, I had in my performance review a comment like, Rachele has a wicked sense of humor and she's the glue of our team. So I think it was similar comments coming from different people and different groups where I found this pattern. And I said, okay, this is somehow the universe talking to me and saying that that's maybe the reason why you're here. Mm-hmm. That's what you're supposed to do in this life. Because who knows what we're here to do, right? So I hope I got it right. But that's what I feel I have to do.
That's amazing. And, it's funny because, okay, so one of the thoughts is going through my head, and it's probably not accurate, but the more I learn about this topic, the more I learn that as we grow, we become more open to different ideas. And so when you talked about that external feedback, what went through my head is I wonder if Rachele did get great external feedback in the past at times, but just wasn't in a place where she could hear it. It's like, because sometimes we do that, we're not, I don't know, people say nice things and we sort of, blow it off and ignore it and say, oh no, that's, no, you look better than I do, or you're better at that than I am, or whatever it might be. But at the same time, my other thought, and this is what I actually wrote down, was this is a testament to how much change you've made, is that when people are saying those kinds of things, that you've clearly become an amazing leader that absolutely is helping and inspiring lots of people. So it's fantastic. It's inspiring. So I know I said we were wrapping up, and we should, but I also am conscious of the fact that I stopped you when you were kind of talking about some of the things you'd done daily. You talked about stretching, the gratitude list, the list of things you hope for the day.
Being reminded of my daily purpose and do activities about that. And then I make sure that I dedicate a bit of time to the things that I love each day. And some days, I don't know what it is. Some days it could be with my children. Some days it could be, going for a walk. And it's not easy to fit them in, because you have days that you're just busy and you have to, you have your duties, your responsibilities, of course. But I've learned sometimes to say, as I said, and I'm still getting better at it, to say, no, sorry, today I'm maybe not seeing a client because I'm not in a good place. I need to do that for myself. So it's really this continuous checklist of things that I specifically need for the day. And I do that every day. And the more I do it, the less I need to fact check, because it comes naturally that I'm in a good place. But if I have, for example, a long holiday and I don't do it for a while, it immediately comes back. And I said, okay, something is not right here. So always being mindful and being, I don't like to say being present, because I find it so hard to do. And I'm such a thinker, I always think about planning and the past and the future. And I don't know, I find it really hard to do. But really fact checking against you, how do you feel and what do you need that day? And again, be brave and say it out loud and do it. So that I do every day. And then when I see some, as I said before, when I see some signs of low mood, I immediately call out for help. And that sometimes happens still, and it's just also realizing that it might be just the same if a very, very happy, balanced person has a bad day. It's the same. And it's fine to admit it. So, and then in terms of daily tips, I make sure I eat what I love. And I found out that what I love is what happens to be healthy as well. And I know that sounds like a cliche, but I have my own vices, of course, and some things I shouldn't have a lot of. But I make sure that whatever I eat is something that makes me feel good afterwards. Sure. And that's very important. And again, it's just that continuous, every feeling that I have that I think it's going in the wrong direction is speaking out.
Yeah, I'm catching it. That's such a big deal. Excellent. So 3 final quick questions. First one is, who have you become since you started from your most challenging place?
Who am I become? Who have I become? I hope I've become a much better mother and a very good wife and much better daughter, because I've been a bit naughty to my mom in the past, and a good friend. And oh my God, that's already a lot, right? Well, I'm quite ambitious in that sense. I just hope I've become someone that makes a difference, even if small, to the people around her.
Yeah, I'm sure you will. And then what would be a good first step for people listening?
I would say, depending on where they are, but I would say literally take the phone or find their best kind of contact, relative, whatever, and speak openly about what they're going through, and not finish the conversation until they have found another next step. Yeah. So it could be, okay, we call a therapist. Okay, we'll leave that job. Okay, we will, whatever it is. But just make sure that every step, and I think, again, I believe in the power of communicating to the people around you, is followed by another step. So speak up. And maybe even before you do that, be honest to yourself, as I said at the beginning, and don't be afraid to admit the place where you are right now.
Mm-hmm. No, thank you. And then lastly, how can listeners keep in touch with you?
Oh yeah, that's a great one. So you can either follow me on Instagram, so it's Rachele Gonzaga. I have a website, it's rachelegonzagastylist.com. Yeah, I think that's it. I'm not going to give out my number here, I guess.
No, that's fine. So just to spell out your name, can you spell out your name just for people that have a pen handy?
Yes, of course. So it's Rachele, and then Gonzaga, Gonzaga. And then my website is www.rachelegonzaga-stylist.com.
So it's supposed to be pronounced Rachele?
Rachele.
I've been getting it wrong the whole time.
Yes. Oh, it's fine. I'm used to it.
So it's Rachele. Is that right?
Rachele.
Rachele.
Yes,
Rachele. Oh, that's really
Rachele.
embarrassing.
It's
Oh,
okay.
goodness me. We can't go back and start again. So Rachele, um, this has been phenomenal, an amazing learning experience, and I hope people listening have got even half of the value that I know I've got from listening to this, because I think these are the kinds of topics that absolutely do not get the airtime they deserve. In fact, almost none of the things we've talked about do, and so it's been priceless. Now I'm just going to wrap up with a few words for listeners, if you could just bear with me. So, I mean, my first one is always a reminder to everyone listening that, don't put someone on a pedestal because they've accomplished amazing things that you or I haven't yet. Understand that, as actually Rachele was incredibly open about, we all have flaws, but just don't make that mistake of, I'll never be as successful as that person, because everybody has to start somewhere, and you don't have to be perfect in every area. And then the last couple of things in wrapping up again, thank you sincerely to everyone for listening. I can't imagine you didn't get many phenomenally useful things from the podcast. And much of that information, links to Rachele's site and to her Instagram page, and then other resources that have been mentioned, those will be on the show notes on my website, which is matt-anderson.com, matt-anderson.com. And please subscribe to the podcast if you haven't already. Other than that, I'll sign off with my favourite question. What would you do if you knew you couldn't fail? I'm Matt Anderson, and this was Get Out of Your Own Way.